Hello, everyone. This is Bradford Harris, and this week I'm taking a risk and doing something a little bit different. I'm hoping to facilitate a majority of your questions as much as possible in a short presentation. I will pop in from time to time and try to answer as many questions as I can and cite sources along the way. Let's get started. Today, we're going to focus on the following topics that you have asked so far. Number one, how educators can utilize the four phase model in practical settings effectively to foster and sustain student interest in various subjects. How can we teach the learner topics that do not align with their chosen area of focus? Should they be overlooked or ignored entirely just because they are not liked by them? And last, have I utilized interest theory in my own instructional design projects? If so, how did I apply it and what were the outcomes? Let's start with redefining interest theory again. Suzanne Heedy, in her article, Interest, a Unique Motivational Variable, defines interest theory as a unique motivational variable and a psychological state that occurs during interactions between persons and their objects of interest. It is characterized by increased attention, concentration, and effect. It is why we care about topics or interests. It's like a spark that makes us focus on things we find interesting and enjoyable. And utilizing the four phase model effectively, Steve Black explains in his article that in Hitty and Renninger's article, it expands on this by saying that it is based on triggers capable of shifting learners' thinking by introducing surprise, novelty, unexpected complexity, or cognitive dissonance. This is broken down into triggered and maintained situational and emerging and well developed individual interests. In the classroom when triggered, educators can spark students' initial curiosity through engaging activities or intriguing information relevant to the subject matter. When the interest is sparked, it must be sustained. Educators can do this by providing meaningful and personally relevant activities that encourage students to explore the subject further. When the student becomes more interested, it becomes more personalized. Educators can support this emerging phase by providing opportunities for students to explore their questions and challenges related to the subject. When interests are more developed, the educator becomes more of the facilitator. They encourage students to pursue the projects more in depth based on their interests by conducting research or something more project based, which enhances their skills. Let's take a look at an example of utilizing the four phase model. A choice board is a great example of this. A choice board based on Laura Lauder Bruchel is a tool used in teaching that provides learners with a selection of activities from which they can choose. Choice boards are in a grid format that lets students pick activities that match their interests and learning needs. They offer different types of tasks and learning environments, giving students control over what and how they learn. This approach helps students become more independent, manage time, and make decisions and be more creative. In this choice board, as an ELA teacher, we are going through a novel study. There are tasks that I would need the students to complete, but I'm going to build on their interest. I do need something in writing, so I require the students to write a summary of the novel that they are reading. From there, I spark their interest with other ideas to get other assignments done. The examples that are starred here show that a student has the opportunity to go to YouTube and create a music playlist based on the novel and explain their relationship. And the other option is where they are creating a comic strip of their novel. We could even reword this comic to say, instead of retelling, you could say reboot to make more of a real world connection. This is taken from Casey Bell, and if you would like to make a copy, feel free to access the link or scan the QR code on the screen. The concern with educators is that not all topics and lessons can appeal to every single student. There are lessons that must be taught and mastered within the school year. Kitty discusses in her article that the key to finding and teaching topics that do not align with students' interests is to find ways to make more of a connection and make it relevant to them. We can do this by looking at up to date resources that help trigger interest, provide feedback and attention, and demonstrate their own interest for the subject matter in a positive effect. For example, in Hitty's article, the document mentions a study where girls showed little interest in mechanical pumps. However, when the concept of pumps was related to biology, specifically to the pumping of blood during heart operations, their interest increased significantly. This change occurred because the content was linked to a context, biology, that the girls found more relevant and engaging, as they were more interested in living organisms than inanimate mechanical devices. This is just one example of how we as educators have to get students to master content that we must cover, even if it does not appeal to all students. Nothing is overlooked. We must find ways to build connections and relationships to show students connection, understanding, and mastery. So, last but not least, how have I done this theory and put it into practice? So, I'm sure I've told this story before, but I had an opportunity to do a professional development for teachers that were doing esports in the space. The problem was I wanted to make sure that I appealed to their interests for professional development in the virtual space. By doing this, I've already appealed to their interests because I'm already in the comforts of their own home. There's already an initial interest already because they want to come in and do esports, but I'm also appealing because it's in their own environment and they're already comfortable. The caveat to this, it is from 9 to 12:30 daily. I wanted to make sure that I still appeal to that interest by giving them what I call bio breaks where they could stop throughout that time period, take 10, 15-minute breaks. They could go to the restroom, go outside, walk, drink some water, have coffee, make a phone call, do whatever it is that they felt like they needed to do. But also in the beginning of each day, I would do self check-ins to see how are you doing? How's your day going? What did you think about the lesson the day before, or how are you feeling about this lesson coming up? Also, to appeal to their interest, I wanted to create sort of a universal design for learning profile sheet, as you can see here on the screen. It's on the third or second column where they would create their own profile, and we would go through several different activities together that were interactive on Google Docs, where I would look at their interests and how they would learn about how they would create their own different programs in esports. So, yes, overall, we were talking about esports, but I want to hear individually how they would learn and develop their own programs under the district's esports umbrella. This in turn gave them opportunities to give them choice and voice on how their program wanted to be developed. Okay. So doing that, I know they still had concerns on, well, how does this look? How is this going to cost? Who is doing this? So I wanted to build connections. I used my connections from people I knew across the country, and they came in every week. I mean, not every week, every day. And they talked about how they built their programs. We talked about certain topics, whatever pertained to that week. And they saw how these connections could be built. The one person that you see here on the screen on the upper right hand corner, his name is Chris Aviles. He's really known around the country, especially in New Jersey, on how he built his programs in his state and nationally. And we had a chance to go through a Rocket League activity. We talked about how to start the program with health and come up with rules on how to run the program. And so we really got to go in and develop a mini program on the fly. This gave the opportunity for us to even come up with constitutions and rules, and we thought about how the district should run it. So each person had gave insight on how the district should run this. And I took that back to the district. At the end of every session, I allowed them to give voice and give feedback on how the session went. I didn't wait for a survey to come out. I wanted them to give honest feedback on how the day went. There was still some concerns on how this should look. We're all used to seeing esports as big arenas, but then I showed them a PowerPoint presentation where another friend of mine had an esports room that looked literally just like a classroom with Christmas lights and computers, and that was pretty much it. After they saw that, they had a sigh of relief and they walked away with more prepared with how they could do their esports program. Each program was different, but they all walked away with different interests on how they could run their classroom. So, in short, that's how I developed an interest. I had an overall controlled interest, but I allowed each teacher to develop their own interest within that so they can have voice and choice on their own. And these are some of my references that you see here that I use in this presentation. And obviously, this is the first part of the present of our conversation this week. I look forward to all of your constructive feedback. I read all of your feedback so far, and I look forward to facilitating the rest of the week. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.